birthday.
Thank, thank you. All right. So I know we have a few new people today. So this is, if you're new, welcome aboard. I just wanted to uh, introduce myself again. My name is Manhat. I'll be your instructor for today, as well as all these sessions. That if you attend the rest of the sessions, uh, I've been doing training for about 37 years, and I worked for Microsoft, Oracle, uh, and all the, I'm working for Wintellect, which is one of the Microsoft Gold partner. As a Wintellect, what we do is that we do consulting as well as instructor-led. Also, we do host all the on-demand training, Microsoft products as well as other vendors. We are a big influence in the industry. We had our consultants and instructors have written over 30 books about technology. We are offering 10% discount for anybody who is interested to continue learn Azure and to become a certified in Azure and in different disciplines, either architect, administrators, or developers. If anybody interested, you have the information here, as well as you have Martha contact, and you can contact her directly. All right. As we had so much materials and less time to do things, so let's kick off on this. Today we're talking about Service Bus and Azure CDN. So before we talk Service Bus, we had created a Logic Apps before, and within the Logic Apps, you can either use functions and other options as well. But today we're going to do Logic. We're going to try to use the Logic Apps with the Service Bus. So we're going to connect through Service Bus to get through. And of course, Content Delivery Network with CDN. As well as I do today, the CDN has been growing like crazy. Because I've been saying all along that when it comes to data becomes, for most, or not for most, every organization, data is the core of the business. So how do we maintain that data? How do we manage the data? How do we analyze the data? That is the value for every organization, how quickly we can do that, right? So we're talking more about the CDN. So Service Bus is also integrated. It's a built-in tool that Microsoft provides within Azure. It's an integration message broker versus most commonly used to decouple applications. Most application developers will be familiar with different type of Service Bus as well. So we're trying to transfer the data between different applications using messages. And it can be in binary format, also can be in JSON and XML or just text. So some common message scenarios that we'll do is to transfer business data such as sales or purchase order. We have that data we wanted to transfer into Dynamics 365 or other sales third-party products you may use, journals, inventory, all that. So when we receive data from the web application, as an example, if we collected data, let's say we have a retail website, so we're purchasing things, we're purchasing through the website and the back end, how do we communicate to make sure that the data is getting pushed out, or that when customers purchasing through the website, you wanted to tie back in the back end to Dynamics 365 inventory, logistics, all that kind of stuff. So that's where we have application talking to another application. So pretty much that's what Service Bus is. Service Bus sends a message between applications. We're talking about one-to-many relationships between publisher and subscriber message sections. We're going to talk about how to implement the workflow, require message ordering or message differential stuff. So we'll do kind of a lot of good stuff, fun stuff. So really, before we go into Service Bus, there's a lot of prerequisites that we have to have. Namespace. So a namespace pretty much is a container for your Service Bus. So you might create multiple Service Bus throughout, it depends on how many applications you have, and each Service Bus must provide a different way of communicating between the applications. But all the Service Bus are going to store under a namespace. So namespace is your name, it's a container. So normally, even though theoretically what we like to do is that in the real world, under each subscription, we want to have only one namespace if it's possible, because namespace can be service bus can be reusable. So I can use in my app for the service bus the same thing that one of you guys can reuse it. All the in the team, everybody else can reuse the service bus. So we normally like to put it one namespace for one subscription, but normally that might not be the case. At least I recommend to have namespace for each development team to have their own namespace. So within the namespace, we can create the namespace is the first thing we have to do before we can do anything. Within the names, when we create the service bus, you need to have the namespace already. So all the service bus is going to be organized within the namespace, and as well as we have queues. So queues are also each queue can only reside in one single namespace. It cannot, so namespace is your hierarchy. Within the namespace, you have service bus, and each service bus have you can have multiple queues in each service bus. But the queues is what's going to put your request in order for coming in from a client. So it's important to make sure that we create that. So we're going to create namespace, we're going to create queues, and of course we're going to create logic app, and we're going to use the service bus to communicate between applications or sending message between two applications. So when we're talking about namespace here, so of course queues are storing messages. So normally it is first in, first out, right? Whatever comes in first goes into the queue. However, there are ways that in JSON or in Java or Visual Studio, you can code it to change the priority of the queue. So you say, well, this particular request comes in, it has to have higher priority than the other users. So you can set the queue that way as well. But if you leave the default is first in, first out. The sender request, the receiver is going to grab that request first in line. So queue, as you can see, is like a line. It's in line, like we go to a movie theater where the first person in the front is going to be the first person get to purchase a ticket. The same rules apply here in the queue, unless you have a VP shows up and that they have hierarchy. So, they pay more for the ticket or something like that in real world. But that's the same thing in the queue. You can set it up to have VP shows up first, and at any time that the request comes in from this particular IP address, that it will go to the top of the queue. So if not in real, if you have default, the default will be first in, first out. And we have topics with 3 subscriptions with messages. So we can also create topics to send and receive message. So queues often used for point-to-point. Topics are useful in publish, subscribe scenario. So sender sends something, and you can be, especially if you have multiple subscriptions with message, that it can send to each single one. So you can have topics, can have multiple independent subscription. A subscriber to a topic can receive a copy of each message sent to that topic. For this demo today, we're not going to do multiple subscriptions because we don't have multiple subscriptions. Most of us only have one. So we're doing one-to-one. But if you know how to do one-to-one, you should be able to do one-to-many. It's the same rule applies for the topics. And we have a lot of advanced features, especially in the newest version of Azure came out the last year, October. We have first in, first out, that's what I was talking about, the message sessions, enable joint and ordered handling of unbound sequence of related messages as well. Auto forwarding, you can also create auto forwarding that if this particular request comes in the chain of queue, it will automatically forward it to a specific namespace. It's enabled, but make sure that it is a functionality and you must be enabled, and there is a cost associated with it if you use auto forwarding. So you have to look at all of those to make sure is it worth it for us to use this auto forwarding. So, and we call get letter queue, supports DLQ to hold messages cannot be delivered to any receiver of message that cannot be processed. So what happens when a message, so we wanted to make sure that it's not sitting in the queue and using up the queue space and blocking everybody. So if for whatever reason, if there's an error, you cannot deliver the message, it will go into the dead queue. We call it dead queue. It's a DLQ, dead letter queue. It goes in there and it will wait till you can inspect it. You can delete it, whatever you want to do. But that's what it's going to do. Other advanced functionalities we have is you can schedule delivery. So you can also say, well, if you want to delay the processing, so you say, well, as soon as it goes in the queue, we don't want it to stay alive. We want it to make sure that, sometimes we do that because there is other things that needs to be done before that particular request can be processed. So we will delay that process, say, well, these things has to be done first in the queue before this particular request can be processed. So you can schedule a delivery. For most of the time, we do that for delay processing. We can also do message deferral, which the client receives a message, is willing to process, but not currently possible to special circumstances within the application, then it has to do defer retrieval of the message to a later point, a queue or subscription. We also do message deferral if we think that there's a lot of message coming in and is going to slow down our process. And if, let's say, you're running a big batch job, we wanted to make sure that, hey, don't run this request until that batch job is done. So you can do message deferral. We can also do batching, which is, we do a lot of those, because enable a queue or topic to delay sending a message for a certain period of time. Like send a message during this time period, it transmits the messages in a single batch. So we want to send all in one big batch. We can do that as well. So these are all the advanced features. Any advanced features are additional costs. Only the standard features are built, comes with the system. There are no additional costs for those, but if you use any advanced features, there is additional costs. Always keep that in mind. And transactions. So another advanced features we can do is a transaction group. We can group them to 2 or more in execution scope. So, hey, we want to have all of these execute at this particular time. Against a single message entity queue or topic subscription with the scope of transaction. So that's another thing that we'll do if you're running a project that you wanted to make sure that they all run for whatever reason the same time. That's what you can do. You can put transactions. You can configure the transactions to make sure. And we can also do filtering in action. So you can define which message they want to receive from a topic. So we can also decide what messages needs to be retrieved based, and you can filter based on the topic name or based on the queue name. So matching rules and their policy rules that we set up, we can when we create the actions or the triggers. We can also set up auto delete on idle. So idle interval after the queue is automatically deleted. Minimum duration is 5 minutes. We can make it to idle too if you want. Then there are more functionality for advanced features. We have is duplicate detection, which is very, very cool thing. That's most, you guys know as well as I do in data, that's the main thing we have is duplicate problem. Doubt about outcome of a SAN operation, and sometimes, how users are, we do the same thing when we're online sometimes. We'll click it 2 or 3 times the same thing. So it knows that, oh, this is the same message. You sent it earlier because you haven't got a response. You're waiting, because we don't have enough patience, we keep clicking 2 or 3 times to make sure that it will only run 1 time instead of having 3, even though you might send the same message 3 times. So we also use SAS RBAC and manage identities for Azure resources. Security protocols, they do all shared access signature. That's what we use today. But we also use RBAC, manage identities for Azure resources as well. You can also set up geo disaster recovery. All the service bus data that we'll collect, Azure regions or data centers experience downtime. You can create geo disaster recovery, which is going to allow you to enable data processing to continue operating in a different region or data center. So disaster recovery. Remember, we have, when we create the logic apps, when you create VMs and all that, you can tell them, you want it locally redundant, or do we want to have geo redundant in the same zone or in a different zone? Security bus. Security is very, very important as well. Security bus does support AMQP 1.0, as well as HTTP REST protocols. All right. So client libraries. So what type of library does Service Bus support? Of course, .NET, Java, and GMS. So pretty much it supports all the .NET developers as well as people doing Java or JavaScript. Integration. Service Bus can be integrated with Logic Apps, Functions, Dynamic 365, Stream Analytics, and Event Grid. They are in the Microsoft. We are in the process of trying to integrate with other third-party tools, and even now, you can still do that, but it will be a lot of coding that you'll have to do to get Service Bus works with any third-party services. But it is in the process, so hopefully it will get released sometime this year. So, when would you use Event Grid if you wanted to integrate it with Service Bus? Event Grid connects data sources, event handlers. We had created Event Grid in previous ones. I know some of you guys are new, may not had that exposure yet, but we have done Event Grid. Trigger serverless function to run image analysis each time a new photo is added to a blob storage container. I think that's what we did, serverless application architecture using Event Grid. Operating system ops automation as well, allows you to speed automation, simplify the policy enforcement. Event Grid can notify automation when a virtual machine is created. You can, as an administrator, if I know some people are running administrator role, you wanted to know if a new virtual machines add to your resource group or add within your subscription. So it can do automation as well and application integration as well. You can create application topic to send your apps event data to Event Grid, take advantage of reliable delivery, and from that Event Grid can take other things you wanted to. You can use also Event Grid with Logic Apps, process data anywhere without writing a line of code, which is a pretty cool integration as well. Out-of-the-box connectors, we have connect apps, data, devices, anywhere on premises or cloud. With our large ecosystem software, we have SES. Cloud-based connectors include Salesforce, Office 365, Twitter, Dropbox, Google services, and many more. And if you want to know the list of all those integrations, you can go to Microsoft Azure site and you will see it will list it there. And as we speak, we are adding more connectors. So really, before you implement something, you want to look at it. And connect and integrate data from cloud to on-premises. So Logic App is a pretty cool product as well, right? And a functionality. You can use that to move data from cloud to on-premises fairly quick. And we can also use those licenses that you already purchased on premises. You can bring it onto Azure, and you don't have to buy additional, and it'll save you money in that way. Business to business, enterprise messaging in the cloud as well. It makes it easier for you to work with trading partners via electronic data interchange, which is EDI, include EDI Fact, X12, and ES2. So those are more organizations, like an example, like Walmart. Walmart has a lot of different vendors. So in order to communicate with their other vendors, say, hey, we need to order this much or this particular product, or we're out of stock in that product, all that kind of information between business to business, the business application to their third-party application. You can use that business-to-business enterprise messaging in cloud, which is also scalable. Benefits of cloud messaging is a pretty robust, and it is very well known. A lot of people use it, like it, and it makes it a lot easier for developers. We don't have to write our own code anymore. So, and take advantage of your current BizTalk server investment also to connect to SES application. So if you're using any Azure BizTalk server processing from the cloud, you can also take advantage by using the Service Bus. Tap into the Power Azure services. Unleash the Power Azure services like machine learning and connective services. Build rich serverless workflows, extend your integration scenarios, and get insight from all of your connected system to help you make informed business decisions. We have of that Azure and Azure Insight application tools that will allow you to tap into any of the Azure services. So that's a lot of cool stuff you can do. We're talking about Event Grid. We can also integrate Service Bus with functions. So functions accelerate, simplify application development with serverless compute. I've started talking. One thing I was saying, did you guys, everybody had a chance to download the PowerPoint files and all the files associated with it? Everybody got the files, right? Just want to let you guys know it is on. You guys have it? Pretty? Okay.
Yeah, I have it.
Did you?
One, right?
Yeah, for session 6, or did you guys upload it to within your organizations? Everybody who doesn't have access to Skype, who's logging, dialing in by phone, have access to. Make sure you guys have that access to the document, because we're going to do a lab pretty soon. It'll be very hard not to be able to do that. All right, so back to accelerate, simplify application development with serverless. Serverless is very popular these days, right? Because it's an event-driven platform. You can complex orchestration problem. We can build and deploy without additional setup. You can deploy fairly quick using all the integrated service, using triggers and bindings, and a lot of these are drag and drop. You don't have to write a lot of code. Also, it's very easy to make sure that it's consistent throughout your application. Yes. So you can manageable sequencing plus error handling compression. We have fanning out and fanning in for the functions. We have external events correlation. We have flexible, automated, long-running process monitoring stuff. These are the different integration function features that we can integrate it with Service Bus. HTTP-based asynchronous log running APIs, and human interaction. All right, we are about to get into the lab. So let's get back into our portal first. We'll bring up the documents. I guess I must have lost all my open stuff because I had to reboot my machine. Let me go grab my files. Okay, so we are going to implement a service bus and queue. First thing we're doing is service bus and queue. Okay. So we're going to open the create your first Azure Logic apps with Azure portal. So if we have that document open, we're doing a very simple process. We're not doing a long process. We do need to go into the CDN later, which is a little bit more, will be a little bit more complex. And let's make sure that our Azure portal is opened. Okay, all right. So I know we have new students today. Make sure that you do have access to the Azure portal. I assume you do. So you know what permission you have. We will be creating a couple of stuff in here. So I'm just giving a couple minutes to make sure you guys are in. You are in the Azure portal, as well as you have the create your first Azure Service Bus. Create your Azure first Logic app. Create your first Azure Logic apps with Azure portal. You are in there as well. All right, we are going to go through this together. All right, we are going to create a resource. So once you are in the Azure portal, we are going to select Create a Resource button. That's under the main menu bar. When you click a Create a Resource, we are in the blank called New. In the blank New, we are in the blank New. We are going to, you should see, some people see Logic App, and I don't think some of them will see Logic App. Let me see that. Yep. So what you want to do under the Azure Marketplace, we are in the new blade, and under Azure Marketplace, you want to select Web. So let's use select Web. On the right side under the Features column, you should show up Web App and Logic App. So we are going to create a Logic App. So we'll select Logic App under the Featured. Everybody so far so good, right? Okay, under the Logic App, it's going to be requesting a name. So we have in step 5, we provide you the information. So because we got a lot of you guys are maybe in the same subscription. So what I would want you guys to do is after the name that we see in step 5 table, make sure you append your initial next to it. So mine would be my first Logic App MM. That way you can define it, identify it from other people. Okay, and make sure we have a green check mark. I want the name to be all in small case. Okay. And we are, of course, we only have one subscription, so we just use the same subscription that you're allowed. If you have more than one, make sure that we'll use the same subscription throughout the lab, or if your existing students are ready from previous sessions, use the same subscription. The next thing we're going to do is create a resource group. So in your resource group, we are going to select the new video button. The same thing with this as well. I want you to append your initial at the end. So it should be my first Logic App resource group dash whatever your initial is. Okay. For location, use whatever is near you, but for this demo, I'd rather you guys use either West US, Central US, or South Central US. I want to stay in that 3 for everybody in US. So in this case, I am selecting West US. I'm making sure that everybody had time. So we are not going to turn the log analytics, because if we turn log analytics on, it is going to create logs and it will fill up our drive space fairly quick, so we're not going to do that today. So again, we have the name. We make sure that you have a green check mark to the name. Select the subscription that you were assigned to you. Resource group, we have create new resource group next to the name. We have a green check mark. Location, either if you're in US, use either West US, South Central US, or Central US. Stay with that 3 location only. Pick one of that. Make sure you remember which location you created in. And we are going to select create. So when that's created, we can go looked up in the notification, and notification is that little bell button on the main command bar, which is going from the right to left. Is after your name, there's a happy face, and you have a question mark, and you have a setting gear, and next to the setting gear that we call it bell button, and also notification, like a ringing bell. My deployment is succeeded, so I am going to go click on go to resource just to look at it. So when you create When you create a Logic app, it shows up in Logic App Designer by default. So I can just close it for now. We'll go back and open it later. But my Logic app is in, if you're looking at the overview blade, it tells you the resource group, what location you are, if you have any trigger in it, tells you the subscription ID. We have 0 triggers, 0 actions, but my Logic app is enabled. All right. So we'll go into other stuff later, but we have successfully created a Logic app. Did anybody have a problem creating? If you can communicate me through a Skype chat as well as you can talk to me, but if I'm not hearing anything, I'm assuming you are, but you do need the Logic app to be able to continue this lab. So if you're having any problem, please let me know. Okay, seems like we are all in and we are all happy. Okay. Everybody's still awake, alert, enthusiastic, right? I know this may be late for some people, maybe early for some people, and for me it's early. I'm in East Coast, so it's about a little over 7. I know some people in California it's 3 or 4 in the morning. So, all right. So we are back in the Logic app. Under the, we are in the middle configuration section under the overview blade. That's what we're in, open an overview blade. If you scroll down to the development tools, under the development tools, you should see Logic App Designer. So that's what we're going to open up, the Logic App Designer, and that is step 6. In the Logic App Designer, we're going to scroll down. It's just introducing Azure Logic Apps. If you're new with Logic Apps, that would be good to watch that video at some time as well. So when we scroll down, we are going to scroll down to the templates. Under the templates, very first top template is a blank Logic app. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to create a blank Logic app. Okay, so what we're going to do, we are going to select a blank Logic app. Everybody will find it. If you scroll down, we are in the Logic App Designer, and in the Logic App Designer blade, you scroll down, you should see a blank Logic app, and click the plus sign. Now we have a blank Logic app. We'll come back to this, so we're not going to do anything at this point. We are going to get out of this one. We will go back. Now I want you to go back to the dashboard. So we're back to the dashboard for now. Now what we need to do is, before we can create Service Bus, we need to create a namespace for the Service Bus. So we are going to select in the main menu, we're going to select Create a Resource. When we click a Create a Resource under the main menu bar, and we will be in the new blade. In the new blade, you're going to select in the new blade under the Azure Marketplace, we are going to select Integration. Integration is past about middle toward the bottom. Select Integration. Service Bus name. So once you select Integration, Service Bus should show up under the Feature column. It should be the third one. For me, it's the third one. You guys may not be the third one, but it's on the Feature column. You should be able to see Service Bus. So we're going to select the Service Bus. Everybody able to locate the Service Bus? All right, I hope so. So we are going to enter the name again. So we want to say Service Bus. A small letter again, small case, small letter, and we wanted to put initial of your name again, so we know that is you. So once we enter the name, you should see a green check mark to your name. If we see a green check mark, we're happy. Notice that Service Bus is your Service Bus, your name, whatever you name it, .servicebus.windows.net. So that's a link to your Service Bus. Okay. Now pricing, we're going to scroll down. We're going to click the drop down. click the drop down and we are going to select standard. So under the pricing tier, we have standard subscription. We're going to leave the same subscription, what was assigned to you. So for the resource group, we are going to use the same resource group you created a minute ago in the Logic Apps. So it should be my first Logic App resource group dash your initial. We're going to use that, and we're going to leave the location the same. So for this particular demo, we are going to create the namespace as well as the namespace in the same resource group as well as in the same location. Okay, but if we choose the same resource group, it has to be in that same location the resource group was created. Okay. All right, just to make sure that we all are in the same page. We have a name, we have a pricing tier, subscription, a pricing tier standard, subscription, what was assigned to us. We have a resource group, the same one we created for Logic Apps. We are using existing resource group, and the location is the same location we created our Logic app in. Now we're going to go ahead and click create. Remember earlier I said that namespace is the service bus namespace. That is a container. Within that service bus namespace, we can create multiple services. Now we're going to go open the notifications to see how the service bus is deployed. Mine saying deployment in progress. Everybody able to create is the progress of creating the service bus, right? Anybody? The ones behind? It's very important that, okay, thank you. We got to make sure that nobody go behind. We need to make sure that we wanted to make sure we see deployment is succeeded. That's what we're looking for. So give it a couple seconds. Okay, mine is back. So we're going to close the notification window, and we are going in the main menu. We'll go back to resource groups. In the main menu, when we select resource group, you should see a list of resource group available to you, the ones that you developed it. And we are going into the resource group we created. Mine should be my first resource group. So now under the resource group, we have a Logic app, as well as we have our namespace, service bus namespace. So make sure that under your resource group, you can see both of them. We see both of them successfully. Then let's go into your service bus namespace. So it should be my service bus with your initial. So let's click on that name link in the resource group. So now as always, it shows up in the overview plate. So notice that on the top you have queues, we have topic, all kinds of stuff there. We have what the resource group name, the status is active for our service bus name, location, tells you the subscription ID. Of course, we didn't tag it, but if we need to tag it, you can. And also they display all the requests if we have a request, which we don't have any requests yet. But if you have it, this is where it will show up. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it also shows you what's in the queue if you have requests. But right now we don't have any yet. We're just creating the service bus yet. We haven't created anything. So the first thing we need to go do is get our connection string. So in the middle section where we call that configuration section, which you have the overview blank, right there is highlighted overview. If you go down to the setting, under the settings section in that middle, the configuration part, you should see shared access policies. All right, so under the shared access policy, the policy we wanted to use is root manage shared access key. Okay, and you can manage it, you can send it, you can listen it. So everybody able to locate the shared access policy? That's under the setting. Again, we are in the service bus namespace. when it open up, it's by default, it always open up in the overview blade. And we are going to look under, so if you look under the overview 4 or 5 down from overview, you should see settings. Under the settings, you should see shared access policy. And when we open up the shared access policy, we have one policy there only, which is root manage shared access key. So that's very, very important. If you don't find that, we need to know. But we are going to open that up. And when that open up, we need to make sure it will have another blank pop up, and it said SAS policy root manage shared access key. And you have three boxes that you get, 3 items that you can check mark: manage, send, and listen. So right now we have manage. I don't think we said listen, we can manage. So make sure that manage is selected. By default, it should. But under there, you should see there are primary keys and primary connection string. And that is what the connection string we're going to use to connect to our namespace here, the Service Bus namespace. So what we want to do now is go ahead and either open a notepad. I would prefer to open a notepad. And we are going to copy that primary connection string. So you notice that you should see 2 primary connection string, well, primary connection string, secondary connection string, and you see primary key. In this case, we only want primary connection string. So we are going to copy that primary connection string. Next to that primary connection string, you should see a document icon, and that is what we used to copy. So please do not highlight, copy, and paste. Please use that document icon and copy that primary connection string to your notepad. We will need that primary connection string later, okay? So, okay, once we have that primary connection string open, now we're going to go back to the overview blade in the Service Bus namespace. And we are going to select Q on the top in the command line. You have plus Q. We're going to create a queue real quick. Select on a queue and a namespace. We are going to say my queue. Put your initial. Make sure that in the create a queue, we have enabled partitioning. We can do without it too. So I think the demo I showed did without it, but I just want to show that we can create a queue in here as well. So we're going to create a queue here, my queue num. Make sure that that is enable partitioning, enable the sessions, and enable partitioning. So you should see 4 check mark box on the bottom of the create queue. We are going to make sure that enable sections and enable partitioning is check mark. Duplicate and dead lettering, we're not worried. We don't need to worry about duplicate. We don't have data to play with it yet. So we're going to select create. So that will create a queue. Okay, so now you have successfully created a queue, and we are going to select refreshed. I want to make sure that you can see the queue. All right, so if you look under the overview session, and then when you scroll down, you have settings. Under the settings, we have entities. Under the entities, go ahead and open up the queue. Your queue should show up under the entities queue. Everybody see that under the entities? You should be able to locate the queues. Once you see the queues, you should see your queue. Open up the queue that you just created. Okay, when you open up now, we are in the Service Bus queue. Under the settings, you have a shared access policy again. So go ahead and click that shared access policy. Okay, no policy set up yet. Okay, we don't have any policy set up yet. So I guess we can't use it that way. Just want to see something real quick. All right, so shared access policy. So in the shared access policy, we have no policy, so I'm going to add a policy. So we're going to select the add policy name. Policy, the same thing we do, put my policy with initial appended and select manage and select create. Okay. So now we have a shared access policy. We have for the queue as well as, so we'll go back to the service bus and in the service bus overview. All right. So now we have, and if you scroll down in the overview blank to the bottom, under the queue, you should see your queue, and your queue is active. All right. So we had created namespace. We had went and looked at the share access key. We also went, we had created a Azure, we had created a logic apps. So that's all the things that we done. Now we are in the section, say, add trigger. So we're going to add a trigger. So we go back to the logic app. So in order to go back to logic app, what we're going to do is we're going back to the resource group. In the resource group, I'm going back for the breadcrumb on the top. You can also go for the main menu, select the resource group. We're back in the list of resource group available to you. And we're going to go into the resource group we just created this morning, about an hour ago. And once we are in that resource group, now we are going to select the logic app we're in. So we're going to select the logic app. We are in the, if you're not in the Logic App Designer, when you open your Logic App, in the configuration section, you can go look for Logic App Designer, which I'll go do that. From under the development tools, you see Logic App Designer. So we're going to go click the Logic App Designer there, and Logic App Designer opens up. You can start with a common triggers, or you can start with a template. So what we're doing here is we will create a blank logic app first. So we select the blank logic app. So under the blank logic app, you go to type in service bus. I already had service bus on, but if you don't, you need to go look for service bus and select service bus. So we are in the service bus. Once you select the service bus, it's going to ask what connectors and triggers you want to use. We're going to use the very first one on the top. When a message is retrieved in a queue, we wanted to see in our service buses. That's what we're going to do. So when we open up the service bus, you should have only one namespace. I have multiple namespace, but you should only have one, okay? Because I haven't created other stuff. But for the connection name, and they're asking for connection name, we wanted to make sure we highlight the right namespace. So I'm going to go select the correct namespace in the list. So after I select the right namespace, it shows a service bus policy, and I have a connection name. But before a connection name, so before we put a connection name, we are going to manually enter configuration information. That you see that link in blue at the bottom. We are in the window, say when a message is received in a queue, autocomplete. So in that section, in that window, we are going to click on the link, manually enter connection information. So when you click manually enter connection information, it's going to ask for a connection name and connection string. So connection name, my connection with your initial. connection string. Okay, that's the connection string that, remember, we collected earlier. We copy and paste it to a notepad, our primary connection string. That's what we are going to copy and paste it into this primary connection string. Once you have the connection string in there, we are going to select create. Everybody able to follow that, right? We are good. We are select create. Now it's going to come back when a message is received in a queue, what queue name we want to do. Notice that we already had a name, queue name we created. We find our queue name. We're going to select the queue name that we created earlier. Frequency intervals 3 minutes, that's fine. I'm going to leave that. Received in a queue. So we have a queue name, we have a queue type, we have interval. We can make it 1 minute, 3 minutes. All right, so we have a connection already. So let's select save here before we create a new step. So we create a trigger when a message is received in a queue, it will notify us, right? So that message received in a queue. Now we need to have, every time you have a trigger needs to have action. Trigger doesn't do anything, right, until something, the action is going to push us to do. So we just add a trigger. That's what we just did. We follow that trigger thing. And manual enter connection. We did the connect string. Now we enter the queue, all that. Now we are going into the add an action section. So we're still in the logic template there. It's going to say choose. We can select this new step. In the bottom, you should see the step. We are selecting that new step. Okay, now choose an action. So what is the action is going to be? So you can select all for the actions as well. And in the select all, we are going to scroll down, and we are looking for send message. Okay, so we are looking for send message under here, under the actions. So actions, okay, when it triggers, so when it's triggered, it's going to send a message to the queue. So that's what we're going to do. And easy, you can just search for send message. Make sure that we don't want to send message with others. So let me see make sure that we select service bus actions. Make sure that we are selected service bus actions before you select the send message. We want to send a message with the service bus. So now we select the send message service bus under the actions. Everybody good? Okay. And we're going to send message to the same queue. Select the queue from yours. Session ID, we can leave those open. We're not going to do that. We are connecting to the same namespace, so pretty much you just need the queue name. All right, we're going to save. I don't want, if you guys want to run it, you can run it, but we're not going to go into the queue to look at, we can go to the queue to look at it to make sure messages are displayed. But just to get an idea of what we just did here is we had created a namespace, we had created a logic app. Of course, we created resource groups associated with it. We tell them what location it is. We had used the logic app designer and go in and create a trigger. And when that triggers, when a new message received in a queue, what's going to happen? It is going to trigger the send message. And the send message is going to say, hey, the action is when a new message received in the queue, it is going to send a message. that takes a few moments to run the run. So some people, if you guys want to do that, you can. But let's go back and look at what we've done before we move on to the next one, okay? So just want to make sure you guys know what we've done. So, of course, in the real world, what we're doing is that we're creating a very simple service bus, right, just to send a mail. But that service bus can make a call to another application. It can call, it can it can pull a batch file that will pull it's going to query, your database. All those are kind of things you do. So again, for a very, early sessions, the first session I told you guys, we are giving you a taste of all these functionalities. Say, hey, these are the things you can do. We're showing you, the foundation of what these functionalities can do. You really need to dive deeper into it, especially if you're a developer. If you're going to use Service Bus, there is a whole lot of Service Bus videos out there, a lot of resources out there. And if this is your first session and you haven't had a session with me before, the last session I provide a lot of resources, and hopefully it's still up in your, I think it's still up in your site, that share folder, and you should be able to see those important links where you have hands-on labs. We have a lot of video sections, so I do encourage you guys to go in and do that, because this is an overview. I didn't go into coding part of it, because that's a whole lot of coding that if you're creating the application from scratch and using Service Bus. But Service Bus is a tool that you communicate between apps, and you see how easily we can do that, how quickly we were able to create these. And the good thing is that you can maintain it. So if I knew that, I would get that error, that request. Okay, so I don't have permission to create the Service Bus and all that, but pretty much the rule, you understand how that was communicated. So make sure that you can connect to your Service Bus. Make sure you have the right connection string, all that good stuff. So any questions on this before we go into content delivery network? Everybody able to at least create the namespace and see how the namespace is. The Logic App Designer is somewhere where you wanted to become proficient with it. If that's what you're going to do a lot of development in it, there's a lot of options there. You can use the templates, you can create it from scratch, all of that. So I highly recommend you guys to dive deeper into it if you plan to use Service Bus and queues. Okay, all right. I don't hear anything from you guys, which means that's a green light for me to keep going, right? So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to do Content Delivery Network, which is good. We need time to create a Content Delivery Network lab. Is also going to be a little longer lab than this one. So if nobody has other opinion, we are going to move with the Content Delivery Network. Now, Content Delivery Network, as I said earlier, because we have all these disparate data, right? We have all these data are not structured data, unstructured data. In today's world, we have so much unstructured data that we had never had before, right? Because now we have chats, we have Twitters, we have all these. The data that we collect from there is also good data. However, they are not structured data. So now we come up with this Content Delivery Network. It's a distributed network of servers can efficiently deliver content to the user. So our goal is, as you know, when we're developing an app and people are using your app, your goal is you want to get people to access to the app with the most proficient you want to be. These days, users do not have the patience to wait 2 minutes for your app to come up. They want instantaneously to come up, right? So how can we make that delivery, we can bring the web page up, as pretty fairly quick. That's another point. But if the users want a data, how can we deliver data to the users most efficient? Because when we're talking about data, we're not talking about 1 or 2 records. We're talking 1 million rows of data, maybe, right? 1 million rows of records. How do we handle that? So that's where CDN comes in, because we can store cached content on the edge servers that are close to the end users. So what we do is that we create an edge server next to the end users, and an example like A lot of organizations have a main office maybe in the U.S., New York or somewhere, and then they have all kinds of stores across, all kinds of company divisions across the United States as well as the world. So now we might have some users in Canada, some users in Europe, some users in Asia. We need to make sure that the data gets to them quick without, making the performance most efficient. In order to do that, so we have to we're creating, we call it edge servers. So edge servers pretty much, it just works like your memory, your brain memory. What does it say? It remembers the latest thing. If I ask you what did you do yesterday, you can tell me. But if I ask you what did you do a year ago today, in 2018, May 14, what did you do? It was like, I don't remember. Unless that's the day you're married or something happened special to you, you're not going to remember what happened a year ago, right? But you'll remember what happened yesterday. So, okay, so because of that, that's what edge server stores. Edge server stores that a lot of users, if they're pulling. So let's say you have a main application that, about 80% of your organization, all the users use that particular app. So if somebody pulled this, example, customer table, once they pull that, and that a lot of people pull the same table, in that kind of thing, what you're going to do, the CDN is going to store that. It's going to store in the edge servers. The edge servers say, okay, this is the customer table that people pull all the time, so it's going to store it in the cache. Cache is your computer memory is cache, right? Like human. So if it stores it in there, when another person requests for that customer table, it is pulling from the memory, pulling from cache, not from the database. So because of that, it'd be a lot faster. So that's a whole benefit of using CDN. And we do that, especially it's better for a static content, as images, style sheets, documents, client-side scripts, HTML pages. However, you don't want to do CDN. You don't want to put your data in CDN if your data is going to change constantly. You don't want to do that because that's going to be the purpose of having things in the memory if they have to keep overriding the memory. So the main benefits of using CDN is low latency and faster delivery of content to the users regardless of their geographical location, because we can push it out to different edge servers near where the client locations are, the end user locations are. Where their application hosted, it helps to reduce load on a server application because it does not have a lot of all these requests. Instead of going to the server, it will go to your edge server, go to your CDN, which is, so it's going to it's kind of going to help reduce the load on the server because not every transaction is hitting the server. Because some of the transaction, if it's a repeated request, that it will go to the edge server, will go into the CDN, and it will pull the data from the cache instead of pulling from the server. So that's a benefit of using that. Content delivery network, where we talk about the benefits, we'll talk about how CDN works, how the CDN profile, CDN endpoint, CDN time to live, and CDN compression. So content delivery network benefits is a distributed network of servers that can effectively deliver content. And so notice that this is where original server with all the data are, and we have the CDN. So CDN is going to, the client say it's only 40 millisecond. For clients who pull from the CDN, it will take 120 millisecond to pull from original server. CDN cache content on edge servers that are close to the end users, low latency, faster delivery of the content, and it's going to reduce the load on the server application. Especially like in a training company like Wintellect, we have a lot of videos, right? A lot of how to do videos, training videos. So that training video does not change very quickly, right? Once you develop it, it stays good for a good several months. Maybe then we'll do some updates. So something that doesn't change every day, that would be a good, all those training, coursewares or training videos to put it on the CDN. That would be very beneficial to do that. Because every time some student download it, they're downloading from the CDN. They're not downloading from the server. And because the data doesn't change quite often, you don't have to worry about upgrade, because if changes will happen only, especially with courseware and stuff, it doesn't change for 3 to 4 months, definitely, even sometimes longer than that. So that would be a good example to put it on the CDN. CDN include delivery static resources for client applications, often for our website, delivery public static, and share content to devices such as cell phone, tablets, computers, serving entire website that consists of only public static content to client without requiring any dedicated computer resources. Streaming video files to client on demand, that's CDN is good at that. Most organizations having that type of product, streaming video files, they're using CDN. There are about 97.9% of people in the organization are using CDN for streaming video. Generally improve the experience for the users. Suppose LOT, Internet of Things solution, distributed firmware updates and all that good stuff, and coping with peaks and surges in demand without requiring the application to scale up and down. So we just save you guys money as well. I don't know why I have a blank sheet there. All right, then we have how CDN works. So CDN works is user requests a file from the server. Edge server requests that file from the origin. Origin is your server, originated server. It returns the file to the Edge server. And Edge server caches that file and returns that file to the original requester. When a second requester comes in, requesting the same file, it doesn't have to go to the originated server anymore. It just go to pull from the Edge server. So it's going faster because it doesn't have to go there. It's in the memory. So that's how CDN works. CDN, we create a profile for each CDN. Of course, it has a name, a user subscription, what resource group you want to put it in, pretty much the same things that they always ask, what the pricing tier you want to choose. Of course, the higher profile, the higher resource, the higher pricing tier you choose, you have more resources. You can have up to 8 different CDN profiles per subscription for different pricing tiers. So it depends on some apps, we will use a particular CDN. So that's the reason that we do that. So some CDN will have, have a higher pricing tier because we have some applications that need a lot of resources. Some of them are low key, so we can put it at different pricing. But per subscription, we can create 8 CDN profiles, which means we can have 8 different pricing type of CDN. Okay. Next is CDN endpoint. So CDN endpoint for the storage. So we create original type as a storage, cloud service, web app, or customer. So normally our endpoint is going to go to a storage example. It's going to be CDN endpoint for the storage example is ash.storage.azure.net. That is our storage for CDN endpoint. So origination type, we say it can be a storage. It can be cloud service, it can be web app, or custom originating. Original host name, we need to make sure we have the host name in there, such as compression, query strings, and geo-filtering. You can use all of those for your CDN endpoint. So once we create the CDN profile, then we create the CDN endpoint. Now, time to live, that depends on every organization what the time to live is. The default, as you can see, cache expiration duration is 10 days. Caching rules set the cache expiration duration for each endpoint in your profile. You can set up different ones, but custom caching rules match specific path and file extensions and process in order and override the global caching rule. If you create a custom caching rule, but global caching rule by default is 10 days. If you want it less or more, that's when you need to set up your CDN time to live. CDN compression, you can improve the file transfer speed. If you want format to compress is a text plain or text HTML, text CSS, or a text JavaScript, improve file transfer speed, and increase page load performance, and reduce bandwidth costs, provide a more responsive experience, enable compression on the original server or on the CDN Edge server, and specify with MIM formats are compressed. All right, any questions, concerns, burning desires? I know it's some of you guys are later in the day and some of you guys are too early in the day, so thanks for bearing with us on the time situations, and hopefully you guys are not too tired, and hopefully you'll grab the information that we're delivering. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we are going to do the lab for this HTML web at Azure and create a CDN profile and endpoint. All right, so it's about 8 o'clock, so and let's meet back about 8:15. So it's 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. So let's meet back at 8:15, everybody, okay? I am going to take out this sharing, and I'm going to mute myself. So, all right. All right, I am back and hope everybody's back. Welcome back. You are still awake, alert, and enthusiastic, right? All right. Hope everybody's back because we want to make sure we're going to the lab, so I don't want anybody to miss the lab. We're going to do 2 more labs here. So once we're back, get back into the Azure portal, and we are going to first do the HTML, create a static HTML web app using Cloud Shell. So make sure we are going to be back in the Azure portal, and you are going to select the Cloud Shell, which is an icon on the command bar on the top, which is a greater sign underscore. So let's go click on that.
Can you please share your screen?
Thanks for reminding me. Good. I wanted to make sure that you guys are awake. See? I can get you guys to talk, finally. All right. All right. So when we open up the Cloud Shell, they say you have no storage mounted, which I delete my storage, that's why. But you guys should have a storage already, so give me 1 second to create my storage. Go away. If you don't have one, and if you're new today, you just come in today, then you might want to create one. So when we click on the Cloud Shell, if you haven't used Cloud Shell, and you'll have no storage because I delete all mine, then you can go back into, okay, I like my thing here. You can select when you open up, you'll see advanced link on the right. You can click on the advanced link and you'll be in the same screen as me. And once we have, okay, let's make sure we're in. Storage. Okay, so create new storage and create new file share. Everything else should be using the default. Okay. Okay, well, location, I do need to make sure it's West US. Make sure RM. Yeah, it's West US. Okay, so make sure you create the storage in the same location. You use it when you create your resource group, okay? So if you need to create storage, that is, you've got some new people here today. So if you have to create it, make sure you have to select create new for the storage account and file share. Everything else is default, except make sure that your region, make sure you use the right resource group, the one we created today, and make sure that Cloud Shell region is in the same region that you created your resource group. So give it a second. It will start ringing for people already have access. You do not need to create, if you don't need to create the Cloud Shell, we're good. And as you guys know, I also give you guys a PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, what's it, Notepad file for the command. So if you wanted to copy and paste from there, we can do that. All right, so you should be sitting, for everybody new, you should see succeeded in green, and you should be sitting in a bash shell.
Can you please show again how you created this Cloud Shell?
How we create Cloud Shell? Okay, okay, so when you click the Cloud Shell button, right, and does it show up and say, do you know where the Cloud Shell button is?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Cloud Shell. So let's go back. Cloud Shell button is on the main menu bar. When you see next to that search box, next to the search box, between the search box and the filter, it's a greater sign underscore. That's on the further, closer to the right, on the right. So if you go back on the right, in the portal, the furthest right, you see your name, right, with a little human icon there, and then you have a smiley face, and next to the smiley face is a question mark. Next to the question mark is a setting, as a setting gear bar. Next to that is your notification button. Next to the notification button is your filter. Next to the filter is your Cloud Shell. After Cloud Shell, you only have a search box. On your portal, on the top right. Do you see it now?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so got it. Perfect. When you click the Cloud Shell, but so the first time you open it, it's going to say you have no storage. If you say no storage, and next to that, you should see, next to your subscription, you should see a link say Advanced
It's
Setting,
ask for Bash or PowerShell.
Bash. Yeah, Cloud will be, I think it said Bash on there one. Yeah, it said Bash Shell. So, but you have the storage? That's good. You good now? We're all good? Are we all
Yep.
good? All right. So now we are going to, we want to make sure that you're in the Bash shell, and make sure that also you open that notepad file that I uploaded this morning. It's that CDN statements. That's a notepad file you want to open. Okay. Once you have that file opened, we are going to statement 1, we're going to copy. It should say make directory quick start. So we are going to create a directory called quick start. So in the bash shell, got to make sure you are in green prompt. It should have your name at Azure. So you have that name at Azure. We're going to say make directory quick start. So that's the first thing we did, make directory quick start. Now once we create the directory, we're going into the directory. That's step 2. Statement 2, we're doing cd $home quick start. So make sure we are in the quick start directory. So now we should have that your name at Azure in green, and then you have /util/ quick start in blue. Everybody in quick start directory? So that's, we had create, download the sample file. So in the Cloud Shell, we're in step 2, we create a quick start directory, and then we moved ourselves into that, change the directory, we change it into that directory. So we're now, all of us are in the quick start directory, correct? It's very, very important. The next one is important one. We need to make sure we can't lose this. Okay, so next thing one is we are going to go get the application. It's already created for us in the GitHub. We're going to go get that application and download it here. That's what we're doing in statement 3. So you see that it's a git clone, https://github.com, Azure sample, blah, blah, blah. As you can see, we are getting a Hello World application downloaded from GitHub. So everybody see that, right? Statement 3. You can copy and paste it from the notepad file. Make sure that you are in the quick start directory before we do that, because we wanted to download it to the quick start directory. So it come back fairly quick. It should say remote enumerating objects 46 done. So checking connectivity done. So we had copy of 46 objects. Pretty quick. Everybody so far so good? Anybody? Pradeep, you need me? You said?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So now we are going to change the directory that contains sample code, and we are going to run this command. Now, before we run this statement, first we're going into that HTML hello world. So that's make sure that we're in that directory. That tells us that we have copied the file correctly. If not, you won't be able to go into the HTML world directory. That's CD. So we're going to change directory to HTML docs hello world. Okay, now we have your name at Azure in green at the prompt util/quickstart/html1.doc.hello world. Those are all in blue. Now we are in the HTML doc hello world directory. So before we run the next statement, we need to make sure, so both statement 5, do not run the statement 5 yet. Okay, statement 5, you are going to make sure you are going to use the we are going to make sure you're going to change the app name to the name that you created, and also the location has to be the same location. Okay, So make sure that you're going to replace your app name, application name, and the location. So let's go back to, so leave that, do not close your bash. Do not close your Cloud Shell at the bottom. Do not close it. But in the portal, I want you to go back to the resource group, and I need to make sure okay, I don't think we have an we haven't app yet. One second. Let me look at something here. Okay, all right, so this is going to, okay, so back to the statement 5, if you're looking in the notepad. So location, we wanted to put it in the same resource group. So whatever resource group this morning you created, make sure that you are using the same. And okay, the name here, you can create whatever your app name, and make sure we put our initial in there. So this will be my CDN app, and that's what I see. So make sure that you change it in the notepad. So I found that a lot easier, and then I can just copy and paste it into the Cloud Shell. Again, everybody see the statement 5, right? It should say AZ web app. So we are creating web app in the Cloud Shell, from the Cloud Shell. We'll show you how to create it in the Azure portal, which we've done a couple of them already, but we'll do that again in the next exercise. But here we are creating the app using Azure Cloud Shell. So again, the location, make sure you change the location for the location that you used for your resource group you created this morning. And also make sure to change the name to like my CDN app with your initial. All right, everybody got that? After you change that, then we're going to put that in the portal. I mean, not in the portal, I'm sorry, in the Cloud Shell, and we're going to run it. So this is going to create a web app for you. Everybody able to run that successfully? It's still deploying. Mine is still deploying. You guys doing okay?
Yeah, it's in progress.
It's still in progress, right? Okay, thank you.
So what's the difference between a Cloud Shell and a bash?
Well, the default, Cloud Shell is always the default, right? So bash, if you're going to do like Linux and stuff, it has to be in bash. But we only have, if you notice that we're dropped down, you only have bash and PowerShell. We don't have a shell for command line for CLI. We don't have separate there. So either in a PowerShell or bash, you should be able to run a CLI command, AZ command. So the system automatically recognize that, oh, you are using, Cloud Shell. It will interpret. It's the back end, just a library, right? Library just interpretation to knowing some of the commands. But it's, yeah, I don't know why instead of making it just PowerShell and bash, they should have PowerShell, bash, and CLI to make it clear to us. But you can run a CLI command in either PowerShell or bash, but you cannot run a bash shell command, which is Linux command, in PowerShell, and of course vice versa. You cannot run a PowerShell command in bash. All right, if you get your prompt come back, you're back in your prompt, and you to redeploy the app run command blah blah blah. But so that means that you can launch the app and you see that link HTTP blah blah blah. Now we create the app in the bash in the command line interface in the CLI. Now we're going to go look up in the portal. Did everybody had come back yet? Because I know everybody has a little bit of. Some people might have. Depends on your internet speed, it might be a little bit slower or faster than me, okay? So what if you get your prompt come back, we'll go back into the resource group, go back to the resource group you created this morning, which is about an hour earlier. Now go back into there and see if you can see your app. And if you don't, you see your app, you can refresh it to make sure you can see your app. Sometimes it's done doesn't mean that it created yet. Sometimes it takes longer to create it. Okay, I'm not seeing my app though. Okay. Hello world, where did they create it? You can launch your app. Okay. Okay. Okay, I know what they did. Okay, so I West US, Georgia, huh? Okay, so you should see your app service plan. If you don't see it in your, well, it created in a different resource group for me. Now you can go into all resources in the main menu bar. Go under all resources. Okay, go into all resources. So under all resources, you should be under the app service, you should be able to find your app service. Everybody able to find your app service? So again, in the portal, we just created app service. We're going to go find our app service. We are going to go into the portal on the top and go under all resources. And under the type, you look for app service. See if you can find your app service. Once you find your app service, we are going to click on that app service link. Are we able to find your app service? Okay, if you can find your app service, you should see, it should say, when you're open your app service, and in the overview plate on the furthest right, you should see a URL. So in the overview plate, you have a command line on the top, and then you have two columns. One column showing your resource group, the status, the location, subscription ID tag, all that on in the right. It tells you what the URL you wanted, what the app service plan is, FTP deployment, all that on that side. On the right column side, you should see your URL link. Click on that URL link. It should show up, and you should see a web page, say Azure App Service, sample static HTML site. So that's our default template, pretty much. Is everybody able to see that? Can I get a confirmation from somebody? Pradeep, you see it, Prakesh? Pradeep left me. Anybody? Lucas, can you tell me on the chat? Were you able to get in?
Yeah, I'm unable to see this app service.
Okay. When you go into, can you look at my screen for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went into all resources?
Yeah, it's not there.
It's not there. Okay, so, but at the bottom, it said created, right?
Yes, created.
Okay, so if you look right above the line before your prompt, it just tells you that to redeploy the app, run the command az web app, blah, blah, blah. What is the name there? App-n, and it should say your app name. What is that app name?
Yeah. My CDN app SG.
Okay, I see. Okay, so under all resources, what are you seeing?
My first logic app, my service bus, and service bus.
Okay, but you're not looking in the all resources, are you? Are you looking in the resource group? Not a resource group. I want you to look in all resources.
I'm looking into all resources.
Are you sure? Okay. Can you click on refresh? But if you see it there, it got to be there. Make sure that also that, it can be hiding if you have a lot. Make sure you scroll down, up and down. I had to look for it. And in the type, in the column, click on the type. So make sure that it will show up on the top. To show up, your app service should show up. Make sure you refresh it a couple times. If you see that I'm sure it's there in the portal. It has to be there. You don't have any app service at all? You're not seeing any app service?
Okay, it's in different subscription.
Huh?
You went to some different subscription.
Maybe in a different subscription?
Yeah.
But we just created, and whatever subscription you're in, it should be in that subscription.
Okay, I think I might have selected some different. Okay, I got it.
You found it? Okay, good. So now, if you found it, let's go ahead and open that app service. Right? And when you open that app service, on the top, it should open up in the overview blade. After the top command line, you should have two column, which the left is resource group. The right column start with the URL. That's the URL we need you to click. Lucas, are you good? Everybody else? You can also, Brian, you can let me know through the Skype chat as well if you're not able to talk. I just want to make sure everybody able to create it. Are we able to see that website? Were you able to click it? Do you see it now, Prakesh?
I'm good.
You're good. Okay, thank you. Anybody? Prakesh, you're good? You see the link? And you're able to open it? So that we just created a app service using CLI command. Everybody? Okay, if you're not saying anything to me, I am assuming that you're good, okay? All right, everybody good? All right, we are moving because I'm not hearing anything. So the next statement, we're going to type statement 6 is nanoindex.html. So we are, let me try that first. Hold on a second. I want to be sure. Okay, so we are going to enter. If you can confirm you have the app, the next thing we're doing is statement 6 in the CDN statement document, notepad file, nanoindex.html. Now, I want you guys to be careful, guys. In the nanoindex.html, that is an editor, and it's not a very forgiving editor. So you can do the drop down arrow to find the HTML header block, the header. As we see here, we have the title, we have the name. Okay, where are we doing the document type HTML? Okay. I don't see the header though. I don't know why I don't. Did I see the header? Are we missing? Or did I went too fast? I don't see. I see a title. Blank. I saw it yesterday. I don't see it today. Oh, okay. I see it now. I had to go a little bit further down. Okay, so when you're going to click the drop down in the body of the HTML, you should see H1. So it should see Azure App Service. What we're going to do is we are going to delete the sample static HTML site. I'm going to delete the sample and put your name there. And we are going to save the file. So Control O, it will say file name to write to index.html. You say yes. And so it write the 49 lines, and we do Control X to exit. Now we go back and refresh that link that we had earlier. I don't know if mine did it right or not. Maybe not. So I need to go back to the nanoindex.html file. Make sure you see the H. It's there. It should be there in the body section. Okay, and make sure you do Control O to write out. HTML, okay, and Control X to exit the file. And when you run that link again, I'm going to close this guy and run that link again, it should have your name in it. I don't know why mine's not doing that. Everybody able to see the changes? Read 49 lines. Okay, still there. Title. Change the title to. Simple. And make sure you save the file. Is file name to write index.html. So say yep, write to that. And Control X to exit out. Refreshed.
What you are hitting me after Control O?
Control X to exit out. Yep.
Control O and then Control X.
Yeah, X to exit out. Yeah, Control O is to write it.
Okay.
Or save it. It's step 6 is that use command Control O to save, Control X, like X-ray to exit.
For me, when I hit Control O, it is on a screen.
It's a write file.
Write name to file index.html, and I'm unable to hit the Control X. Like it doesn't happen anything.
Well, when you click Control O, you have to click Enter first before you can click Control X.
Okay.
Yeah, editor stuff. But mine are not changing it. I don't know why.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it has. I don't know why I wouldn't. Mine's not working on to that. Mm-hmm. No, it's still not showing that. And maybe it takes. It would take some time to refresh it. Maybe. Yesterday it came back right away, but I think I have it written correctly now. Go back to that file. So, yeah, title there of my body. Yep. Okay, I think. All right, publish that. All right, once, okay, oh, I know we have to run it again. Okay, so after you got that changes, then you're going to run the statement 7 to do the update. Now, remember, you are going to use from the statement that I put in the file, in the notepad file, you need to make sure you choose it to the one, make sure that you change the location to the correct one, and change your app name as well. And make sure you put the right app name, and cdn app mm. Okay, that's what's going to update. It's not updated because of that. So make sure you copy statement 7 and change it accordingly. All right. All right. Now it will change. So you can see how easily you can change it. And this is what's showing that the content that we put, of course, we just did a very quick change, but instead of people, when people requesting your app, instead of the app is coming from, sending it from your app service, it is going from the CDN. So this is the information was stored in the CDN. And you can see how quickly you can change it. And it is stored in the Azure Content Delivery CDN stuff. So, and it changes to part of the web app, but this is coming from the CDN and not from the web app. Okay, so everybody able to see that? We see that we are going to continue to do the next one also. Everybody able to see the changes? We're going to do the next lap. If everybody able to see it, Lucas, Prakesh, everybody, were you able to do the first one and you're able to see your changes from the app?
It's still redeploying.
I'm sorry?
It is still redeploying. It didn't completed that deployment, the last 7th.
It's still working on it? Okay. Anybody else? Were you able to see your changes when you redeploy the web page?
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Okay, perfect. Now, all right, so we are going to do the second lap. Okay, so this one we're back in the portal. Now we're going to create CDN profiles and all that stuff we're going to do. So we are go into the app that we created earlier. So which I'm in my app already. If you're not in your app, in the portal, go back to the app. Under the settings. So if you're in the app, remember it always shows up in your overview plate. Your app is in the overview plate. You are going to scroll down and you are going to, under the settings section, we're going to go into the settings session. So settings session, networking. Everybody able to find it, right? Under the setting, you go into networking. Okay, now we are in the networking. As you can see, you have VNet integration, hybrid connection, access restriction, and Azure CDN. And we are going to go into Azure CDN. So click on Configure Azure CDN. And now we are in the CDN window, a CDN form. Everybody so far so good? You are going to use the same thing we did, like earlier we'll do, I provide a table in step 5, the CDN profile name, you go into have my CDN profile with your initial, make sure in the pricing tier, we're going to do Acme. All right, and make sure that you choose that for the pricing tier. CDN endpoint name, also you wanted to make sure that endpoint name is going to pan Azure Edge.net. So you need to make sure your endpoint name, CDN endpoint with your initial. Okay, we'll do that for that as well. So let's go in and put those names in there. So we are in the CDN profile in the Azure portal. And so we were in the app that we created earlier. The app we created through the command line interface through the CLI. And we opened the app. In the app, we went into, under the settings, we went into networking. In the networking, we had three options, and we choose the Azure CDN. Now we are in the Azure CDN new endpoint section. The CDN profile, make sure you select create new, and you are going to add your initial. So it will be my CDN profile and your initial. Profile pricing tier, making sure that you are, notice that there are third-party tools that we got Verizon. So we are going to choose Acme for standard. We have Microsoft, we have Verizon, Premium, we've got all these ones for the endpoint. So we are using other service to do that from the edge going to users going to into the edge, or from edge to your server. And CDN endpoint name, again, the same thing. I would name CDN endpoint with your initial. We are not going to change anything other than the CDN profile name. Make sure that you put my CDN profile with your initial pending at the bottom. Pricing tier is the most important. Make sure you're using standard Acme. And CDN endpoint name, again, my CDN endpoint, your initial. An originating host name, we're going to leave it the way it is, and we are going to select create. Everybody good? And let that create. It shouldn't take us that long to create. Notice that there are different pricing tiers. So and there are third-party tools there. So you need to, that's something you need to be aware of before you go in and do that, because you wanted to make sure that, hey, do I need to do anything do we need to do anything? And you need to make sure that's additional costs and not only top of your paying Microsoft, whatever third-party tool you use here. Especially if you're going to be using, Verizon or anything else, you need to have, they will have a separate charge on top of what Microsoft charge, for if you're using their network. Pretty much we're using their internet, right? So make sure that you're aware that is happening. Make sure that, there's going to be additional costs for using third-party tools, okay? 1 second, we're waiting for the CDN point. I'll be right back. All right. Mine came back with successfully created CDN endpoint? Everybody, anybody successful? Are we all successful? We are all successful, right? Okay, that is done. Then I'm go back to your app. So do it for breadcrumb. Go back into that. We need to check. You can see your endpoint. Go back to the app service. Okay. So back to in your app service plan. So you're back to your URL. You should see the My CDN now. You guys were able to see your CDN? Okay, so when you go back into your app, go back under networking, if doesn't show up right away, and go back into clicking Azure Content Delivery Network. Now you should see your Azure endpoint, my CDN endpoint, azure.net. You should see your host name running. That's what we want to make sure you see that. Make sure that your host is running. Everybody able to see that? And so everybody see the host name, right? You can see your CDN. Now go into the host name, and you are in your host name endpoint. You see your endpoint. You need to be in your host, so your CDN endpoint. In your endpoint overview tab, you have a link. That link is different than the app link. Now when you click the endpoint, you should see the same thing that what you see from the app link. And you guys see the same thing?
Yeah, we are able to see.
Okay, so that's so not if you're so your app has to point you to the CDN endpoint. So these users are going from the CDN, which is it is coming from cache, from your memory, instead of going from your connecting from your application, which is so instead of viewing data from the disk, now you're viewing the data from. Instead of viewing from the disk, now you're viewing the data from the cache, which is stored in the CDN. All right, any questions, concerns, burning desires? No, yes, maybe? Is everybody able to create it and you're happy with it? Okay. I know you guys are not the same group people, but the other day we did this is the one of the important thing also. So I thought it'd be good that if you already done it the other day, we didn't complete the whole thing. We can continue, but if you haven't done it, we'll start from scratch and redo the lab for a session 5. Does everybody have access to that lab? If you're not, I can upload that for you. I should let me just do that to make sure. Stay on the safe side. Okay, so that's only 5 I have, right? Okay. All right. So we did today so far as we did the CDN, right? We create the CDN. We show you how to create the profile, how to create the namespace, and we did the service bus. So we did 2 things. Okay. So the next one we are trying to do here. Okay. I don't know. I didn't have lab file. So the next one is we are going to do the storage. We saw earlier, like we create the storage from the default. Right, we create this from the default template using the Cloud Shell. Earlier we did that, but most of the time you want to know that where you're creating that storage, so it's not taking the default. So that's what we're going to do here. So I want you guys to, if you attend the previous session with me, you should have this. If you don't, I just uploaded to Skype, so go ahead and get that file. And I am opening the Notepad files in lab, implement, and manage storage. So we're going to go through this lab and create a storage, which is a good thing to do. 2 things that you will do in Azure, no matter what role you are in, is creating storage and creating the VM. That's the 2 things that you will highly use. Okay. So here, this is one of the out of the 2. The one thing we're going to do. We're going to deploy Azure VM using Azure Resource Management Template, and we're going to create a storage. So in this slide, we're doing both of them. That's the 2 things the most important anyway. So again, we are going to deploy an Azure VM using the Resource Management Template, as well as we are going to create a storage. So everybody with me on this? Okay, so if you have this file, which is a Notepad file, it's at lab, implement, and manage storage. That's the one I want you to open. And I want you to go to task 1. Sign into Azure Portal. Of course, we're already in Azure Portal. We don't need to. Azure Portal, we never go in this way, even previous sessions, guys. So in the Azure Portal, we are going to navigate to the subscription blade. So in the Azure Portal, go to All Services. Under the All Services, you should see subscription under the General tab, All Resources. You should see a subscription. Everybody able to locate the subscription under All Services? If you select the General tab on the left panel, you should see subscription. It's on the right side of the column. Everybody find subscription, right? I am selecting the subscription. Okay, and I only have 1 subscription, so I just go into subscription. In your case, you might be able to do more, but if you have more than 1 subscription. But okay, we are going to close this one. We are in the subscription. Okay, that's a Notepad file, sorry. So, okay. Okay, so once we are in your subscription, what you want to do is in the main menu, remember when you open the subscription, it shows in your overview blade. From that overview blade, we are going to look for resource provider, which is under the settings section. So if you scroll down under the setting resource providers is toward the end, select resource providers, and you will see a list of providers. So this is also good for you guys to know, because anytime if you're doing different type, Data Factory, any other type, Cosmo DB, all of those type of services, if you go to development and then, all your logic apps, event grid, all that. Notice that all these services, all those services are registered, are the ones that comes with out of the box. So what we wanted to do is, which I'm sure is already there, but we just want to show you where those services are. We need to make sure that Microsoft.network, Microsoft.compute, and Microsoft.storage is registered. So go look for that, Microsoft.network. I see a network right there, Microsoft.network, Microsoft. So there's a bunch of stuff there, but notice that also Microsoft.service bus is registered. If something is not registered, you can go register that if you're going to need that service. But if you do, remember there is a cost associated with what you register. For example, like Microsoft Analysis Service. That's important because that's a cost associated with analysis service. If you want to do app configuration, not anything that is not registered, if you turn those on, those are costs associated. However, it's good to know that they're there, that these are services, our services are registered. We just want to show you where the services are. So, okay, once we have those services is good. Again, I'm still in test 1. Okay, now, so go back to a Azure portal. We are going back to navigate to create a resource plate. So we are going to select, go back to create a resource. We'll leave the screen. Create a resource. And in the new, so when you open a click and create a resource, it opens up in the new plate. Okay, so in the new plate, we're going to select, we're going to say deployment. So in that search box in the new plate, we're going to type template deployment. Template deployment deploy using custom template. Everybody able to locate that? Make sure that's what, let me sure it's that template deployment. Yep. To deploy a custom template. Okay. So once we are in the template deployment, deploy using custom template, you have 2 options, save for later or select create. So we're going to select create. Okay, under the create, we have 2 session common templates, and then we have learn about template deployment. Under that section, we're going to select build your own template in the editor. Okay, so we are saying build your own template in the editor. Okay, so when we select build your own template in the editor, everybody so far so good. What, you can follow me? You're doing okay? When you guys don't talk to me, I get nervous. Okay, we have to go grab files, and I load all those files, so you should have those files. So the first one we are going to use, is, we are looking at 102 Azure deploy.json. Remember that these are very close. Some of the Azure deploy, Azure this. So make sure that is 102. No, that's not 102 template yet. Template load the AZ 102 template. Azure deploy. Okay, so here I'm going to select load file. And load file, I have to go find my files, documents. Team Business courseware. We are going to Manhattan Project, Section 5, Azure Storage, 102 Azure Deploy.json file. I'm uploading the file. I think I need that. Reconnect. I just leave it. Can reconnect anyway. So once that file is uploaded, we're going to click save. Everybody see that load file, right? Load file, and we click save. Save that profile. After we save it, you are back in the template. It's a custom deployment template. On the right top, you have 3 icons: edit template and edit template parameters, which is the middle section, the middle button with a little crayon on it. That's the edit parameter, the middle one with a edit parameter. We're going to click on that, and we are going to, this time, we are going to load the parameter. We are going to load the Azure deploy.parameter JSON file. So I'm going to select the load file button on the top in the edit parameter, and we're going to go get AZ102 Azure deploy parameters. Make sure you grab the right file. And we go to save that file. When we save it, we are back in the custom deployment here. It has your subscription. It's telling you what subscription it is. Now, resource group, we're going to use a resource group we created today. Let me make sure that they make us to do a different resource group or not. Okay, they want us to create a new resource group, sorry. So we will create a new resource group. Is that AZ1201RG? So we will create a new resource group. So to create a new resource group, you select the create new, right, blue link there. Type your resource group name and click OK. So now we have a new resource group. Location, I'm just going to leave West US. VM size, we are going to leave the VM size a standard. Notice that they give us a username and password in the notepad file. So we're going to go copy the username and password, or you can just leave it student. And they want us to put admin though. No, it's admin. Is that admin or student? Let me come back. No, it's admin, student. Okay. So we can just leave that student, PA55W.RD1234. That's the password. Leave the password and virtual network. As you can see, the virtual network name is already there. We're just going to leave the default virtual network name they give us. They pretty much name the same as we name this. Now, when you scroll down under the term and conditions, we're going to check mark I agree to the terms and conditions above and select purchase. I don't know, some of you guys may not have permission to purchase. Hopefully you do. Was everybody able to at least select the purchase? Once we get that, we'll come into create an Azure storage account. We're going to implement and use Azure Blob Storage this time. So we're using different storage account type. We're going to use Blob Storage. All right. So let's that create. When that's done, we'll go back into, so we don't have to even wait, let that run. We're going back into the resource blade, create a resource blade. So we're at test one, create Azure storage account. This time we are in the exercise 1, implement and use Azure Blob Storage. First thing, we are going into create the storage account. Earlier we just did the exercise 0. Now we're doing exercise 1. Create a resource blade. We are going to choose a storage account from a resource blade. Type in a storage account. I wanted to make sure one thing. They said we have to wait or not wait. Do not wait for deployment. Okay, so now when we went back to a Azure portal, we went into create a resource. When it create a resource, it opens up in the new blade. We type in storage account. Now we are in the storage account window, and you're going to select create. So this is how we're going to create our storage. Now we're going to create a blob storage this time. Okay, so for the create resource blade, we are in that blade. And now subscription, we're going to use the same subscription. We are going to create a new resource group name, AZ1002RG. Notice that you see that in the statement there. After the subscription, we are in exercise 1, task 1. So resource group 1000. I'm going to select create new, put that resource group name, click OK, new resource group name. Okay, storage account name. Okay, storage account name. It has to be, so you can create any storage account name. Just remember, remember what you called. So, okay, May storage account 2, because I think I have one already. And I am going to create, let's see what they say for, we create a storage account. So the name of Azure region where you selected in the previous test. So I've been staying with West US. So I'm going to make sure I stay with the same. The performance name is standard. Account kind is storage version 2. Now we have version 2. Previous they were before we had version 1. So everything you create in version 1 is still compatible, backward compatible. However, going forward, we want you to make sure you create everything in version 2, general purpose 2. Okay. For a account kind, we are going to use that replication. Okay, so replication, make sure that if you select the drop down, they want us to create locally redundant storage. So we're going to create LRS, locally redundant storage. Okay, and access tier, we have cool or hot. We are going to leave it hot. So hot, we're going to leave a cool or hot. Hot means that we are going to have transaction coming in and out. If you don't want transaction coming in and out, if you're not using that, then you can make it cool. Cool is cheaper. However, if you have transactions, you're paying per transaction in the cool. So you don't want to do that if you have transaction. Okay. So once we have that hot, and we are going to select next advanced button at the bottom. We click next advanced. Storage transfer required. Storage transfer required. It says disable. We wanted to disable storage transfer required. We're going to disable it. Virtual network. We're going to select all network for virtual network. And data lake storage and historical namespace, both of them are disabled. That's a default anyway. Now we're ready to select review and create. So we select review and create. So when we do the review and create, if it's come back and say validation passed, then we can select create. I would say your deployment is underway. All right, so we had create what we done, we create the storage account. All right, and in exercise 1, we create the storage account. In exercise 0, what we did is we deploy a template. We use a template. Okay, we deploy a template, a custom template. What we did, we created a version. We created a VM, virtual machine, in Lab 0. Lab 1, we created a storage account. So that's where we've done 2 things so far. We have created a VM and we created a storage account. And we're waiting for the storage account to complete. So when we're waiting for that storage account to complete, we'll come back that we had created a storage account. We're going to create a second storage account later. But before we create, we create a second storage account. Now we'll go back to, and let's make sure your deployment is complete. So go back to all resources and make sure that under all resources, you were able to find the VM we just created, as well as the storage you created. Everybody able to find the VM we created? It should be AZ1021 dash your name, AZ 1021, and you should also see your storage. I think, is the storage complete? Account, yep, that's okay. Storage account is also completed. Microsoft storage account is also completed. Okay. So, all right. So we see your storage. You see your storage account, and you see your VM. So it's my storage account. So the way you can also look is by resource group. So another way we can do is go into resource group from the portal. In the resource group, we had created two resource group, 201 and 202. If you look in the 202, you should see a storage account. And in 201, that's where we had created the virtual machine. Everybody able to see both your virtual machine and storage under your resource group? You should have two resource groups we created, AZ1001 and AZ1002. So under the resource group, open up AZ1002 and make sure you can see your VM that we created. Notice that when you create the VM, because we created from the template, notice that what it does, it create a NIC. It create a network interface for us. NIC, first one is NIC 1. It create a network security group called NSG1. It create a public IP address, PIP1. It create a virtual machine. And also it created a operating system dist. And then it also created a virtual network. VNet1. See, that using the template, it create all of that. Now, also if you go back and look in AZ1002RG, that is your storage. And if you open up the storage, you should see we have status is primary available. We got resource group. We say performance is standard or hot. Replication is locally redundant storage. So under the services, you should see blobs, files, tables, and queues. All right. So you guys were able to see both. You're able to see your virtual machine that we created through the template, and also you guys also see we have created a storage account using the template. So that's what we've done so far. So far, so good, everybody. So if you're not saying anything, I'll keep moving forward, assuming that you guys are okay. Now we are going to create a second storage account. So we are back to the Azure portal, and in the Azure Marketplace, we are going to type in create a resource. We're going to type in storage account. Back in the storage account, we are in the storage account window. We are going to select create. And I apologize for I just noticed that I didn't label my steps here. Okay, in the storage account, but you guys are smart, you can figure this out. Now we are going to create a new resource group called 100203RG. So we're going to select new under resource group, create new, select the create new link, enter that 100203RG, click OK there. Storage account name. Okay, storage account name. This is our second storage account. So I'm just going to make sure I name it second storage. All right. And I wanted to make sure I know it's in the 1002.3. So I'm just going to put 1002.3 for my sake. All right. All right, and make sure. Okay, now you've got to be careful here. The location this time. We want to create it different from the one you choose before. So I've been creating West US for the other ones, for the first storage account. So this time I am going to choose Central US. We need to make sure this storage account is in a different location. So, okay, so we are going to choose, you make sure that you choose a different location from the first storage account we just created. All right? Everybody got that right? In order to make the lab work, we got to make sure you choose a different region. The performance is standard. Storage is general purpose. Access tier is hot. Replication is GRS, Geo redundant storage. Okay, so make sure the replication is you're choosing Geo redundant storage. Is that right? GRS? Make sure it is GRS. Secure transfer. So, okay, once we have it, it's hot. We're going to go to advanced. Make sure secure transfer is disabled. All access from all network. The other two, all networks for data protection. And data lake storage is disabled, so make sure that. And we're going to select review and create. All right, validation pass. If you get validation pass came back, go ahead and click on create. Okay, so we are going to wait for that storage to provision. Okay, when that is provisioning, we don't have to wait. We are going into continue with test 2. So what deployment is complete anyway, so I'm going back to the resource group for the main menu. Within the resource group, I'm going to select that AZ1201 RG resource group and 100201 resource group. That's our VM. Now let's go back into AZ1202 RG, which is our first storage. We had storage account 2. Did I create storage account the other one too? AZ1002-3 also. Okay, so I have second storage MM. Okay, so I have 2 storage. We both have storage in AZ202, 1002 and 1002-3. And we have our VM in AZ1002-01 virtual machine. All right. Now we are going into AZ1002 RG resource group. And in that resource group, so we're doing test 3. Okay. We're going to create a new container name. So let's go into that storage account. This is our first storage account. In our first storage account, under the services, we are going to select plop services. And we are going to create a new container, okay? So we are going to select blob services. under blob, you should see when you click on blob, now we are in the blob blade on the top where the command lines are, the top of your storage, the first storage account in the blob session, we're in the blob, you should see plus container. That's where we're going to click. We're going to create a new container. And we are going to name that container is the 1002-container. Everybody able to find the container and able to name your container? And public access, we are going to set to private. Okay, we are going to set the access to private, no anonymous access. So when you can have three options there, we can name anonymous and read access only, or we can give a blob anonymous read access for blobs only, or we can give for the entire container. Okay, so once you have, make sure that public access level is, we wanted to, with the public access level set to private, which is the default anyway, private access level. Private, is that private, no anonymous? We wanted to make sure it is private, no anonymous access. So when you're doing something, you don't want anybody to get into your container, you will set it private. If you want other people to give access to container, you can create different ones. Okay? You can read access to the blob, the entire blob, or we can give access to just the container also. All right, so once we have private and no anonymous access, that's what we're going to select for public access level, and then we are going to click create. It should pretty much simultaneously create it and instantly create the container, and we're going to open the container up. We just created the container. As you can see, we have nothing in the container. Make sure you're in the container. As you can see, we have nothing in the container. We're going to upload two files. There's an upload button there. We're going to upload 102 Azure Deploy JSON and 102 Azure Deploy Parameter JSON. So we're going to click the upload button there. We're going to select the files, go find the files. So I'm going to find that, upload, and click upload. You're going to open Azure Deploy Parameter file again, select upload. Now under your container, AZ1002-container, you have two files. Everybody, we're good? Was everybody able to upload two files? Can anybody confirm to make me feel better? I think Prakash, did you leave? I don't see you anymore. Okay. Hope everybody able to upload two files into your container, right? That's where we're at. Okay, keep going. If I don't hear anything different, assume everybody will able to be in there. Okay, now we have a PowerShell, Cloud Shell section here. Surprised, I thought I'd give a command file. All right, so let's go back and open our storage, open our Cloud Shell. If mine got kind of, I'm just going to reconnect. I don't know. I'm just going to restart it from a new. You can close it and open a new shell if your shell got shut down or get disconnected, whatever they're trying to do. So if you have to reopen it, and we are going to cloud, so we are going to copy. So make sure you're looking at the right command. Make sure hopefully you are following along with me. All right, so we are creating we're copying and pasting that command. This is under test 4, okay? From the Azure portal, start the PowerShell section in the Cloud Shell panel. At where's the storage account name? We're going to type that storage account name. All right. Type, syntax error. Why we have group name? It's Azure storage account resource group name. Where? Oh, sorry. Must have, I know what happened. It's good that I still remember that. I don't know why I couldn't get that in there. Okay. I already had storage account name twice for whatever reason. Account name dot zero dot storage account name. Okay, I can just go grab it from the container as well, though. But okay, so was anybody able to run that statement? Storage account one name. So you're just creating a variable here, say for storage account one name. Go get the Azure storage account this and put it in there. I don't know why it's missing something. I need to put it. Okay, I think. Okay, name. 22-rg0 dot. Okay, I'm putting it. I think I need to put it in. This is another notepad file just to make sure. Oh, do I need to be in PowerShell? Okay, hold on. Let me just try something before. I know we were able to do it the other day. I don't know what happened to the command. I think we need to do this in maybe PowerShell. So we're creating a variable called storage account one name, storage account name. All we're doing is creating a variable right now. And whatever the value that we get from that get Azure storage account. Did somebody call me? See something? Okay, not. So we are storing that variable. Okay, so yeah, okay, make sure that you run it in PowerShell command, not in Bash. I'm sorry, I should make the note there saying run it in PowerShell. I don't know, it should be able to run it both, but maybe I just had a syntax somewhere. All right, so run the storage account one name, storage account two name. So we're just putting these in the variable, so we don't have to type a long statement. Storage account two name. Okay, and then we also have storage account one key and storage account two key. So that's storing all of that in a variable. We just create a variable, I mean. Okay, storage account key one. Everybody heard what I said, right? I'm running it in PowerShell. In PowerShell, the command works. So hopefully everybody's running in PowerShell. Now, if you set up a this, you know that, right? Anytime we have a $sign in front of it, is a variable. If you want to know is the value, what the value in that variable, you can do echo $ and the variable name. it should tell you what the value of that. So that says what the storage account name is, what the storage account to name is. So I can do echo dollar storage account to name. So it will tell you what my storage account to name is. So see that? You can do an echo to make sure the variables, what value is stored in the variable you want. Okay, now we are going to run that easy copy command. So this is going to copy from that blob storage for the 2 file we uploaded to the other storage. So what we're moving the data from container in storage account 2 in storage account 1 into storage account 2. So what we need to also do before we run that, we need to go back to the portal. Make sure you are in the storage account 2 container, which is should be a storage account, not storage account. You need to be in the resource group AZ10203RG. Make sure you're in there. Once you are in that AZ10203 account, go in, open your second storage. Okay, once you have your second storage, go into the blobs. And in the blobs, you go to create a container. So this is our second storage. So I'm going to say this is the second container. We're going to leave it private, no anonymous access, and we're going to click OK. Everybody good? We're creating a new container in the second storage, which is in the resource group AZ10203-RG. Everybody good? We have a container now. If you open the container, notice that you got nothing. We have no file. So now we're going to go run that copy command, and we're going to move that 2 files from the AZ10202RG resource group. The first storage, that 2 files, we're going to move it to AZ10203RG resource group into the second storage. You guys with me on that? That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do here. So we are going to copy that AZ copy command. Under the Cloud Shell pane, run the following command. And you see that AZ copy command. And synchronization is recursive. Well, look at the statement. Let's run it first. And let's look at the statement to see what that statement is doing. So notice that AZ copy command is saying the source. Notice that the source is the storage account 1 name, in the variable. That is our first storage account. And then we say blob.corewindows.net, go get the container, go get the stuff in that container, AZ1002. That's our source. And the destination is our storage account 2 name, blob.corewindows.net, blah, blah, blah. And we create that AZ1003 container. And we are going to put the storage account key 1 in the destination key. So notice that the comeback already, it said finish 2 of total 2 files. So I'm going back to the resource group. I go back to refresh the storage. Open up the storage. Open up the blobs. And you should see your AZ10302 container. Well, yeah, they already, okay, in the statement, I didn't notice that. They put the container for us already. But AZ10302 container is the one they created. If we click on AZ302 container, if we run the AZ copy command correctly, now you should have that 2 files copy into. And if we wanted to put that into the other container that we personally created, the second container, we could go into that container. So notice that in the command we have, if you're looking at the command, back to the command here. Okay, so in the command, here's a command that we copy for the to the source container, source account key, destination store account 2 is synchronization copy resource. So in the storage account name, blob core windows.net is the 1302 container. I'm going to copy that command and I'm going to change that container name. So I am going to back to the Cloud Shell, PowerShell, and I have a container called second storage MM 1203. Okay, second container MM. Okay, so I can go in and change that to second. Go back to here. So container. Container MM, and I'm going to delete that things up before to change it. And that is my container name, second container. So see, now I got my two files. So that is how we copy data, copy your files, which is your data from one storage to the other. That's what we're trying to show you. Okay, so everybody able to create that, and you got the result come back, you're happy with it now? Now, the next thing we're going to do, so far so good, everybody? Okay, we're going into test 5. We're going to use shared access key to access the blob using SAS key. So we'll go back into the first storage account we created. Go back to that 1002 container. So that's what we're going to do. So go back into the resource group. We are going to be in the resource group AZ1002RG. I believe, and the storage account that you created, and we have the container we created is the 1002 container. Okay. Container, then open that. Okay, so we are going to open that AZ1002 container. And we are going to open up, once we are in the AZ1002 container, we are doing test 5, guys, in the 1002 container. We're going to open the AZ1002 Azure deploy.100-02 deploy.json blade. So we're going to open that and copy the value of the URL property, so 100.02 Azure deploy.json. And you open that up, and it shows up in the overview blade, and you see the URL. So we're going to copy that URL, put that URL somewhere. The URL, that's, okay, copy that URL. Open another browser page and copy that from the previous step. Display resource not found because has a public access level set to private. That's why. So we are going to, you're going to copy that, open a browser, paste it in. How can I help? Oh, Alexa, go away. Go away. All right, so you're saying that, hey, we can't show you because it has private access instead of public access. Okay, so that's what we're saying. So we're going to change that. So we're going to that, on that, we are in the JSON blade, generate share access, and we're going to correspond that. So we're going to permission to read a shared access. So we are in here. We're going to create a access policy. You see that, go to Generate SES. You see the Generate SES tab. We were in the Overview tab of that blob. We are now select the Generate SES tab. Make sure permission is changed to read. Make sure your permission is read. It is a current date time, your current time zone within 24 hours. As your IP address, will leave it to blank. Protocol to be HTTP. String key is key 1. So let's look at the permissions here. Allow IP address. Okay, allow protocols that we're using HTTP, not HTTPS. So HTTP. String key to be key 1. That's fine. Make sure it's read access. Looking at the time, is that start time makes sense? 9:50:21 a.m. Okay, 9:21 50:21 a.m. Okay, 9:14 expire. Allowed IP address, we're leaving blank. Permission is read. That all I did change the protocol to HTTP. Then we go to select generate blob SES token and URL. You click that, and it generate a SES URL and token at the bottom. If you don't see it, scroll down to make sure you see at the bottom. Everybody see your SES URL? Okay, so once we copy that SES URL and you run that again in the portal, we run in the browser. For some reason we can't run it. What? JSON file. Okay. Huh. Okay, we should be able to, okay, once we create that, keyword on that JSON plate, copy that SES URL, go with URL, copied it in the previous step. Prompt whether you want to open that file, and if they do, then you can do this. I think I have security thing on my file. I'm going to try it in a different one. Maybe I can do it in here. Yeah. Open or save. Save or save. Open. Yeah. Allow. If you're logging in to your system, if you log in using the Google Chrome, and if you already have access into the Chrome, that you log in with a Gmail or whatever, if you have that, when you try to run this, you'll have a problem. But if not, you shouldn't have the problem. Okay. All right. So let's see if anybody able to run. They said Microsoft Edge. Okay. Edge in private browser. Okay, it's like HTTPS. I just took HTTP to see if that will work. You want to open or save the JSON file .NET from. So there's something wrong with the syntax though, because it's not giving me the output of that. It is creating. Let's go back to the storage account here. I don't want to do that. The container link. Okay. Okay, so everybody's I'm having a security problem here. But anybody able to upload the file and able to run it to see, you can see the output, you can see the account. Okay, so you open the previous step, and as well, since the time you're not, you can see the JSON file. You can fix JSON in there if you wanted to do changes or anything, but you have access to the file in the container. That's what we're trying to do. So everybody, we're good there? So we don't have a lot of time left, but let's see if we can do the file storage real quick, okay? So everybody good with that? So this is how you can access the file in the container through the link, all right? And you can open a Visual Studio if you want, but it takes too long, so I'm not doing that, opening that there. All right, everybody, so far so good. Let's go into create a file share. So file share is pretty much your network file share that every organization, you guys have that already. And here we are going to create it in the Azure portal. So let's go back to the first storage account that we created. So that's what we are in the AZ1002RG in the storage account. So this time, instead of creating a blob, we are going to select the files under the services. Instead of blob, we just created a blob earlier. Instead of blob, we are going to select a files under the services in your first storage account. Everybody good? We created a file share. We're going to name the file share AZ1002 share 1. When we create a file share, you're also going to give a quote that what's going to take for that file share. So we're going to select this back in the Azure portal. We are in the first storage account, and under the services, we selected files. Now we're going to select the file share. It asks for the file share name. It's provide us AZ1002 share 1. Quota, we're giving 5 gigabyte, the smallest, and we are going to select create. All right, so we are creating a file share. You can see how easy it is. The hardest part is mapping it. So we're going to map that drive to Azure File Service Share from Azure VM, in the Azure VM. So we're going to navigate to AZ1002 share one blade when it comes back, when it's completed, which it should be, you should see the share one right away. We are going to, in the storage account, you should see the file share you created. We're going to open up that file share that you just created. And in there, we are in the AZ1002 file share. We're going to display the connect blade. So when we click on the connect command is on the top command bar in AZ1002 share 1. So you're going to click a connect. So it's a drive letter is Z. It shows up drive letter Z, blah, blah, blah. You see that there. So let's go and see what they want us to type in there. Okay. Copy into clipboard the PowerShell commands that connect to the file share from a Windows computer. So once we are in here, notice that we have test connection, file share from a Windows computer, run these PowerShell commands. Alternatively, run this if the key doesn't begin with a /. So we have, okay, you have two different commands we can run. So I will copy both of them and put it in a new notepad file using that copy icon. We'll fix this later. Okay. It's a test. So there's a couple commands that you're running in there. So that is to the first one. If the first don't work, so you make sure that this is the second option. So copy the second option. Okay, so we have a different one, and it said this drive letter is C. Okay, so Windows, notice that you can connect to Windows, Linux, and Mac operating system. We can map it to. So once we know, so we got that drive letter is C. And we're going to navigate back to we've been doing everything in the storage. We haven't done anything in the VM. So now we go back to the resource group in the portal. Under resource group, we're going to AZ1002 RG, which is the one we had our VM. We created our VM in there. All right. So we are going into our VM, I believe. So once we are in that AZ1002 RG resource group, you're going to find your VM and click in VM. So once we are in the AZ1002 VM, everybody there, right? Okay. We are connect VM by Admin protocol, VM1. Connect to that. Oh, okay. They want us to connect to the VM through a RDP. So we're going to type in MSTSC. In your search box on your desktop, it should show you have remote desktop connection. And of course, your remote desktop connection, the computer IP address. So I want to be in the VM1. Once you're in the virtual machine, and we are in the overview blade, you should see two columns. Resource group status location is on the left, and the right is computer name, operating system size, public IP address. So you're going to take that public IP address to put in your remote connection. And we are going to click connect. It will ask for the credential. I think our credential was that student. We had student, and we have that PF55WRD1234. So we're going to copy that. When we go into the remote desktop, it asks for username and password. That's where we're going to type in username and password. Chat force. Okay, they're like my credential. Right. 40118 18971. 18971 977. Okay, well. Set PA55W dot RT1234. Okay. Really better like it. I don't have any other IP address. I'm going to create that VM. Hold on. Let's see. So I think I left it the way you created it.
The username is wrong. The student it should be. The spelling is wrong.
Oh, the student is wrong. Oh, thanks for saying that. You're right. I'm missing a D, right? Go back and create. Thanks for seeing that. The good eyes. That's right. The password was correct. Hopefully. Were you able to in? Are you in? Okay, I'm in. Are you guys in already? Good. Okay. From the Windows parser, open the script pane and paste it into the content of here. Okay, let's open the PowerShell. I hate this here. All right, Windows, so make sure we're in the Windows PowerShell ISE. Script pane. All right, where is our script file? Okay, so we go get that PowerShell command that we run it before earlier. And then we're going to run one at a time. Okay, they want us to run that as a script, so I'll just run that as a script file. So earlier, remember we copied that PowerShell statement? That's what we're running that. We're going to put that in the script file, so make it a PS1 file. Or we can just run it one statement at a time too. So it might do that just to make sure it's not. Okay, something like that works. Okay. And mount the drive. All right. So, all right, you can create a script file or run one at a time is what I did. So now it did create the storage file core as a C drive. All right, I wanted to see if I can find it. All right. So once we run all that three statement, either you put it in a script file or you run it individually. It should have created a map drive to C drive to Azure Storage File Service Share. Okay, and start the File Explorer, navigate to the Z drive, and create a folder name called Folder 1. And so we're just doing a test to make sure you can create a file and navigate to create a text document and make sure that you take into account the default configuration file explorer that does not display known file extension in order to avoid creating a file name file text tab text. Okay. Everybody was able to find your Z drive on the VM and able to map it to folder 1, create folder 1 and have a file1.txt file. So I must have to reboot it to create the map. All right, so everybody able to do that, and at that you might have to reboot the VM and stuff to map the drive. You have created Azure File Server Share, map a drive to the file share for Azure VM, and use the file share. So this is something that we were doing the other day. That was just a continuous thing that we did that we haven't done before. So let's go back and look at what we done today, just to recap, because we're doing two different modules, 1.5 modules, so to speak. So back to look at what we did in Azure Service Bus this morning. We created a service bus, so hopefully we know what service bus is at this point. It's an integration between two apps. That is a messenger between that. We created a namespace for the service bus. We created a queue. A queue are a part of your service bus. If you're sending messaging through the queue, all the service bus is going to send a message through a queue. And we have a first in, first out. But as we said, there are options that allows us to put priority on those as well. And we have topics. We can either create a topic or in a queue. So we normally create a message or topic, and we created a queue. We didn't create a topic, but you create a topic as well. And we talked about the advanced features. We have message sections, auto forwarding, scheduled delivery, all the things that you can do with Service Bus, message deferral, batching, transactions, filtering, auto delete on idle, duplicate detections, security, disaster recovery, and we talked about what programming languages supported client libraries. We support .NET, Java, and GMS. Integrations, we did the Service Bus today. There are other Service Bus we can also integrate with Event Grid, Logic Apps functions, Dynamic 365, and Stream Analytics. And talked about different Event Grid that we can do a serverless architecture, application integration, automation, out-of-the-box connectors. We talked about connect and integrate data from cloud to on-premises, B2B enterprise in the cloud. Take advantage of your BizTalker service investment to connect to SaaS applications. Those are also built in our Logic apps. We can tap into Power Azure services like serverless workflows. We'll talk different types of functions. We did functions the other day as well in one of the other sessions. And we went and create a service bus and a queue. We did that. And we also went talk about the CDN stuff. What benefit of using CDN? CDN is we do it for two things also. We did one reason to take the workload of our server, as well as we are trying to put we try to put our data between our data and users. We want to put as layers as possible so that it cannot damage the data directly. So you can add additional security on the edge servers. So we are storing the data in our edge servers, and edge servers are stored data all in cache only. Because it's cache and it's not reading from the disk or writing to the disk, it's always faster being in a cache. And then we also have, we talked about the CDN. We create a CDN profile. We also created a CDN endpoint. And we have CDN time to live. Default is 10 days. We talk about CDN time to live, CDN compression. So if you're looking at content delivery network benefits, as I said, we have everything that every time users pull something from the disk, from the server side, the data on the disk, it's always going to have, the system's going to have using a lot of resources. So this is freeing those resources on the server. Once it's been pulled, it stays in the CDN and as a cache. And next user's request is going to pull from the CDN, from the cache, instead of going to the original server and pulling it from the disk. So that's a good benefit that why we use CDN. So CDN is to make sure that we have the performance that, as you can see, from 40 millisecond to 120. So we're cutting about faster, about 1/3 compared to pulling it from the disk and then pulling it from the CDN. Okay? And what CDN include? CDN include delivery static resources for client application. CDN is very good for if you have static. It's not good for if you have dynamic data changing all the time. It doesn't work. But if you have static data, if you have a lot of content that people will download, courseware, books, videos, anything like that, that CDN is good to do that. And CDN provides faster, more responsive user experience. So your question to you guys is, do you think your organization would be interested in that feature? So challenges deploying CDN, including security, deployment, versioning, and testing. And we went and created, right? So how the CDN works, we talked about it. User requests a file. It's going to pull from the server into Edge server, which is where the CDN lives in. And in the Edge server, the next time somebody pull an Edge server, it stays in cache. So the second user, another request comes in, it's going to pull from the Edge server, it's going to pull from the cache. That's what makes it faster. We created a CDN profile. If you can see, it's very easy to create a CDN profile. And we need to just make sure that you're choosing the right pricing tier for your performance. And then we create a CDN endpoint. So that's where your Azure server is going to sit. So how to connect to that CDN endpoint. We created a CDN endpoint. We can also tell that the type is that a web app, or is it going to be storage, or is that cloud service? So originating type, we have multiple options to have. CDN time to live, I was saying earlier, it is 10 days. That's a default global caching rule. If you don't want 10 days, you have other type of rules you want to set up. You can set a custom caching rules. Your custom caching rules will override the global caching rules. We can also do a compression if you're moving files. Type of compression, you have options as text plain, text HTML, text CSS, JavaScript. Okay, so we did all of that. We created so we went to the lab, we did the lab, and we created a static, we showed how to create a static HTML web app in Azure, and we created a CDN profile and endpoint, and we did changes, and we see how quickly the changes can, you can see the changes. And the second time we pull it from the app, it is coming from the CDN endpoint. Now, also we went back and did the storage. For the storage channel, which is from some of you guys missed it the other day if you weren't here, but we created automate a virtual machine configuration in the Azure storage. Well, we didn't do the this is the part that you guys must miss, the VM part, but what we went and did is that we went in and configure Azure storage. We created Azure storage. So that's what we did. I don't know if PowerShell, this is the right one, but what we did for implement and manage the storage. So what we did, we created a VM here. We also created two storage, and we upload the file into one storage, and from that storage we copy it to this another storage. What we want to choose that you can, that's how you can distribute it, your containers, files in a container. You can copy what you want in the container. You can copy the entire container. You can copy part of the container, however you want to do. But that's what we done today. So I think we did a lot of it today, though, right? Any questions, concerns, burning desires you may have before we call it a day? Anybody? Everybody? Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time, out of your busy schedule to attending the session. Hopefully, I will see you guys tomorrow as well. Everybody doing okay? Well, everybody's a different time zone, so